The James Harden situation in the NBA has been like a puzzle with many pieces. It all began with James Harden saying he didn't want to play for the Philadelphia 76ers anymore, and this made a lot of people wonder what's going on. At Media Day, James Harden was missing, and so was training camp at the first day. People started talking and asking questions about why he wasn't there. Although people were wondering where Harden was, this wasn't much of a shock to anyone. In previous years, Harden has shown he isn't afraid to step away from his team or current situation if he's disgruntled. We saw it when he was with the Houston Rockets, and instead of being in their training camp, he was in Atlanta with rappers. We also saw it during his time with the Brooklyn Nets, when he wasn't giving his full effort during games or practices, and even showed up like he was in a bodysuit. But a day later, he surprised everyone by showing up for practice and training camp, even though he said he wanted to leave the team and said he would never play another game for the Philadelphia 76ers ever again. James Harden returned to the Philadelphia 76ers for training camp, participating in drills and receiving positive feedback from the new coach, Nick Nurse. Despite the unresolved trade request, Harden didn't address the situation with his teammates or provide updates. Teammate Tobias Harris expressed that Harden's presence and positive attitude was really what mattered most during training camp. Harden had previously skipped Media Day and the first day of camp. Earlier in the offseason, he opted into his contract for the upcoming season with the belief that he would get traded, and with Daryl Morey not falling through, he called him a liar, expressing dissatisfaction with the team's failure to trade him earlier. The 76ers are conducting workouts at Moby Arena, and although Harden didn't speak to any reporters, his teammates understand the business aspect of the situation. They remain focused on their goal of winning a championship for Philadelphia. Additionally, the team had a dinner and chat session with Colorado football coach Deion Sanders, discussing topics related to the unity and championship aspirations. The 76ers are determined to improve their roster and pursue a championship with Sanders, emphasizing the importance of competition and accountability. But the main problem is between Harden and general manager Daryl Morey. Prior to this, they've had a long history with each other in Houston and historically had a pretty good relationship. But Harden claimed Morey didn't keep his promises, and he got really upset. He even called Daryl Morey a liar when they were in China, which made things even more complicated. This video went viral and was a breaking point to mainstream media that Harden wanted out, besides all the rumors. But here's the interesting part. Harden doesn't have issues with his teammates. He gets along with them pretty well, especially with Joel Embiid, another star player on his team. This is different from another player, Ben Simmons, who had problems with his teammates and didn't want to play for the 76ers anymore. Coincidentally, Ben Simmons was traded for Harden. But now here's the big question. Will James Harden continue to be nice and try to make things work with the team, or will he just become difficult and cause more problems? In the past, he's done things like show up to practice not in great shape, or stop playing during games when he's upset. People have been talking a lot about possible trades, and which team could end up with James Harden on their team. One of the teams interested in getting him is the Los Angeles Clippers, but it's been rough to negotiate trades with the 76ers and the Clippers. It's been like a seesaw almost. One moment, it seems like a trade might happen, and the next moment, it's uncertain. Harden's desire to leave the 76ers stems from his preference for the Clippers, but the two teams haven't found common ground in negotiations. Originally, the Clippers wanted to pursue Harden in exchange for just Terrence Mann, who's a solid young player with potential, but only averaged around 8 points a game, which would be a significant downgrade from James Harden. Harden's trade value has declined due to his declining performance and disruptive behavior. However, the Sixers are reluctant to start the season with a disgruntled Harden on their roster. As the trade talks continue, both sides seem prepared to part ways with Harden, seeking a long-term contract offer elsewhere next offseason. But with his decline in athleticism, skill set, and recurring injuries, Harden isn't worth what he was once valued at and will likely not get the money he's looking for. On the other hand, James Harden is one of the 76ers' most valuable assets, and because of this, Philly will want to get the most out of him as possible. With teams not giving the 76ers packages that they want, they are pretty reluctant to trade him. We have seen in the past Daryl Morey is in no rush to trade his disgruntled star players like Ben Simmons, who sat out for nearly half a year, stayed away from the team, and the Sixers held on to him until they got the trade package they wanted. A proposed trade involves 76ers sending Harden to the Clippers, while shedding Tobias Harris's expiring contract to the Indiana Pacers in exchange for Buddy Hield, Daniel Tice, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris Sr., and a 2030 first-round pick from the Clippers. While this deal would bring valuable assets to the Sixers, it lacks a true playmaker, potentially causing offensive challenges. However, given the circumstances, it appears like a sensible move for Philadelphia. Now obviously this trade isn't the one that's going to specifically take place, but this is just a scenario of likely what the 76ers could get in return for Harden. The Clippers have offered a package including a first-round pick swap, and expiring contracts, but the Sixers are looking for more, particularly Terrence Mann, who is highly valued both by the Clippers and the league. The Clippers need a star like Harden to compete in the Western Conference, as other teams have improved significantly, making it imperative for the Clippers to make a move soon. On top of that, they went all in, getting guys like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, while sabotaging their entire future to win right now. So they might as well maximize every move they can get and try to get every single piece that they could possibly get to get closer to a championship. But besides for that, the biggest challenge is that not many teams want to trade for James Harden and give the 76ers the packages they're looking for, because they worry he might cause problems in their team, just like he did with the 76ers, the Nets, and the Rockets. As the season gets closer and closer, teams are going to want to solidify their rosters coming into the season and have a set roster to compete. This is especially true not only for the teams looking to pursue James Harden, but also the Philadelphia 76ers, who now are in a newly loaded Eastern Conference, competing against teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, who added Damian Lillard, and the Boston Celtics, who added Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. This alone gives the 76ers another obstacle to face, as they were perceived as the underdogs before this trade. And with these trades taking place, this put the 76ers even more behind the finish line. On top of this, Joel Embiid is 29 years old and is slowly aging. He isn't going to stay put in Philadelphia if they can't manage to construct a championship level roster around him, and could very well request a trade as soon as next offseason. We've seen with guys like Damian Lillard that no matter how loyal you are to a franchise, the players aren't afraid to ask out if they aren't on the same timeline as the team. And Joel Embiid made it apparent that that's true. But the one bright spot for the 76ers, besides for Joel Embiid, is Tyrese Maxey, who's a young guard that they got at the late end of the first round in 2020. He's blossomed into a star, and without Harden on the court, he really plays into a significant star role, and I expect him to be one of the breakout players this year in the league. With James Harden not playing for the 76ers, Maxey's definitely going to take a huge load for the Sixers this year, and do a lot of the scoring and playmaking that they desperately need from Harden. So with that, I think Tyrese Maxey is one of the biggest bright spots for the 76ers, and could potentially even be an all-star this year, depending on how good he plays, and if he can improve even more from last year. But overall, the James Harden situation is a bit like a mystery story. Everyone is waiting to see how it'll end, and it's keeping basketball fans all over the world guessing about what will happen next. What I think will happen next, though, is James Harden will probably opt to not play for the 76ers this season and wait until he gets traded. The 76ers, though, they'll be extremely patient when looking to trade him. It will take as long as they possibly need, and might even go all the way to the deadline until they can get the package that they want. Specifically, I think they'll look for another disgruntled star that wants to get out their team, and maybe try to swap him with Harden. But unless some miracle happens, the 76ers will more than likely get a mediocre package in return for Harden, which might result in a full Philadelphia 76ers rebuild, with Joel Embiid becoming disgruntled and wanting out. This could really change the landscape of the NBA, so comment down below what you think.